In the last podcast, I referenced the young business mind that I called my mind map when it came to how to sort of organize and go through all of the things, all basically your plan of attack for the business that you're planning to open or that you just opened, and in order to give you some clarity on the things that you got to make sure you're taking care of, from the business plan, obviously at the top, to all the things that's going to help your business grow. And what I've done here over the last couple of, well, really since 2023 started, was go back to books that I only read some of and never really finished all of it, because there were really good concepts in it. And I wanted to implement those concepts. And once I did, I just never went back to the book, right? So, word of advice: if you are recommended a really good book, or you come across somebody's recommendation just from a video or a podcast, finish the book. So what I've been doing is going back, reading the books. And I say reading, I listen on Audible. I do a lot of driving still, going back and forth from Houston to the Austin area. And even though it's not ideal to always be, traveling every week, it is nice because I get to knock out these books that I should have knocked out a decade ago, or ish, depending on the book. But I then come back, and then I use my iPad, like I was mentioning before, to make notes and have sketches and doodles of some of the most important parts of these books. And one of the things that, after I finished that young business mind reference or phrase that I was using on the last episode, that it reminded me of, was the E-Myth. And it's a book by Michael Gerber, and I really just have two highlights here on my iPad that I want to go over, and it's from the book. Highly recommend it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have read it, but I'm going to pretend as if nobody that's listening to the podcast that has the entrepreneurial brain and is trying to human in this world as an entrepreneur has read. So I'm just going to pretend no one's read it. So many people dream of quitting a job or boss they dislike. Is that what it says? Yeah, many people dream of quitting a job or boss they dislike and becoming their own boss by starting a business. Each year, 1 million new businesses are started. However, 40% fail within the first year, and 80% fail within 5 years. Of those that last 5 years, more than 80% fail in the next 5 years. And that's, a crazy thought. If you're a young, hustler, go-getter entrepreneur who's planning on starting their next business in their local community or into a community that they're moving into, and you hear that for the first time, you're like, man, do I want to do this? Like, what am I getting myself into? Now, I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs who are, and this might be a point of contention for some, either you think that you are born very entrepreneurially and are born with some sort of entrepreneur, wiring, or you're not and you can develop yourself into, is up for debate, those concepts. But I do feel like a lot of people who I know that are entrepreneurs, successful in varying degrees, but successful nonetheless, are wired pretty differently than my closest, friends and acquaintances who are strong 9-to-5ers and love their careers and have, climbed the ladders in certain companies. So anyway, back to the point is that if you heard that and you're a young entrepreneur, you're probably not going to be too scared of that, because you're going to think, I got this. I'm not going to be one of those statistics. I'm going to get this. And you might be right, and I hope you're right. And somebody's got to be right? It's not 100% of these people, it's 80%. So there is a room for plenty of people to succeed. And I want you to just go into it thinking, okay, how can I arm myself with as many skills as possible to make sure that I'm not a part of the 80% who fail in that first year, or even 80% of those that do succeed who fail in the next 5 years, right? The next quote that I want to go over here is the entrepreneurial myth itself, that the whole E-Myth book is kind of formed around, is that the myth is that most businesses are started by entrepreneurs with business knowledge who come up with an innovative idea and take the risk of investing in hopes of making a profit. In fact, entrepreneurship isn't the reason most businesses are started. They're started because people who are good at something believe their technical skills are a ticket to success, and they start a business on those skills alone. I think we all know those people. Most of us are probably those people. Acquiring business knowledge gets left out of the equation. This is probably the most important part of the entire book, and they give it to you really early on in the book. And if you hear that for the first time also, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm great at what I'm doing, like, how is my business not going to succeed? You're missing the point completely, right? So in the book, Michael Gerber references, the young entrepreneur as the technician. And most entrepreneurs and most small businesses and most businesses in general start as a technician saying, and I referenced this in the last podcast, I'm so good at this thing. Why am I doing it for somebody else? I'm just going to go out on my own and do it and get paid for it and have a ton of people and customers and clients and have a line outside the door. And that's all fine and dandy. And you may start that way. I started that way with the business that we created. We had a line out the door from the beginning because, we thought about it for a good while, and there was literally no competition. I was gonna say there wasn't much, but in our area there was no competition. We were a sort of one of one, which is also a very important thing to think about. How competitive is your market, your area? We were a one of one, and we knew the area really well, not just the area, but the community. We knew the people. We were able to build relationships really fast, and a lot of the things were stacking up in our favor. And we started small. We started in a very small location. We partnered up with somebody else who had and we'll talk about this later, but we had, there's direct competitors and indirect competitors. And the business that we opened up with was a chiropractor. And chiropractors serve, a certain type of client who could also benefit from our service and was completely different from the chiropractor altogether. So we complemented each other really well. So, to go back to the quote here, when you're the technician, and you think, we can use a chiropractor on. I mean, chiropractors, I don't know what chiropractic school is like, but I'm sure they do help you almost like a franchise model, like level up to a point where you can open up your own practice. I would assume that's the whole point, unless maybe I'm wrong and it's about working at a bigger facility or working at other, I don't know, offices who do rehab or whatever. Maybe they don't intend every chiropractor to go open up their own practice, but I'm sure a lot of them, I know some dentists, I know a lot of different entrepreneurs. Again, I know the good lawyer and the good dentist and the good chiropractor and the good whatever who went to school, got their degrees or certifications or whatever, and then said, I'm going to go work for somebody who has an established, business or what have you. And then after a year or so, if that, they think to themselves, man, I'm hot stuff. I'm going to go out there. I'm just going to do my own thing. But for the last however long it took you to get that degree or certification, you've just been doing that thing. You have for sure honed in. You've sharpened that, that skill. You've sharpened that knife to the point where you're undeniable at the thing. Hey, Rob or whoever, right? Joe Blow over here, he is undeniable. He is the best at, dental work or being, again, the chiropractor or what have you. And you go out and start your own business. Well, you forget that you had absolutely, for the most part, this is most people, this is just straight up most people, you're probably in this boat and you're probably like, man, you're in your car right now, you're on the treadmill, like, dude, that's me, that's what I did, that's what happened to me. I'm in year 1, 2 of this, very labor intensive, time intensive project essentially of being a business owner and an entrepreneur. And I did this. I completely neglected learning about business. And as it says here, acquiring business knowledge gets left out of the equation. And that's true. And luckily, to a degree for me, the thing that I enjoyed the most of the business, it wasn't, at first, keep in mind, this is 2015 when this all kind of started coming together. So, 15, 16 we opened, yeah. So, whatever, going on 7 or 8 years. I didn't like the PN, reading the P&L and reading the number. We had somebody for this. We had somebody assisting with this, right? And somebody who was a part of the initial, founding of this small business was better at that. So that was kind of their role. And then you had the other one and myself, and then others came in later. But for me, I love the marketing and I love the advertising, right? So for me, I enjoyed, even though I was in the day-to-day there every day as well too, I worked literally 7 days a week for a long time, and then 6 days a week for a long time, all day long. And then after that, I do the after work stuff, because after we close our doors, I had the network nights and I had the group functions and I have the, all the people you go and just try to build relationships with. And how can I help your business and how can your business help mine? And in essence, all we're saying is, how can I help your customers? How can your customers, be served by my service? So it was a lot of work and a lot of hours. And, the sales and marketing of a business is what really helps it take off. It's like right now with digital, digital being the direction that everything's going. If you're good at getting people to stop scrolling for a thing, right, for a product you're selling or a service you're selling, or if you're doing client services work and you can get that to happen for somebody else and they're paying you to have people stop because they're, you're getting their product, recognized or their service recognized, or you're building brand awareness for them, that's a great skill to have. So for us, I would like to think that that was a big part of why we had a lot of success in the first year, because we were able to build the relationships. Like I said, we were able to be basically a staple in the community even before we opened the business. People kind of, we knew a lot of people, so it helped. We opened a business in a market where we knew we already had customers essentially, and the market we were targeting, we also were immersed in. So that's +2. +3 is that myself personally, I was the only one who was super gung-ho. I was the only one that was super gung-ho and also did the thing of getting new people and coming up with the ideas. And my point to all of this is that even though acquiring the business knowledge gets left out of the equation, luckily the business interest that I had at first and still to this day was the marketing, sales, and advertising part of everything. It helped me learn things along the way a lot faster. So when I first learned, how to market a service, how to run digital ads. Again, 7 or 8 years ago, still kind of early on in the whole Facebook ads and digital marketing side of things. But I learned, about sales funnels, and I learned about copywriting, and I learned about how important text message marketing was for customers in a service, especially, or product. And I learned how many points of contact you needed, and I learned how to pitch the service to the people who were walking in. We relied heavily on people coming in to try the service for the first time. Cryotherapy, I've mentioned it before. Do your first session. You give them the whole spiel. You give them the explanation. You give them why it's been beneficial. And that was that. That was the play for a long time. Was sharpening those skills of pitching the service, marketing the service, and getting people to try it. And if I didn't have that fascination with marketing, sales, and advertising, and no one else on the team at the time did either, we probably wouldn't have made it that first year. We would be one of these businesses that I said at the top, that each year 1 million new businesses are started. However, 40% fail within the first year. I could see why 40% would fail in the first year, especially if you're doing it solo dolo. Like if it's just you and you didn't have, at first we had 3 people who started this business, or 2 other people with me. And we all kind of had our roles that we were just inherently good at from the jump. Somebody good behind the scenes who wasn't really there on the day-to-day stuff, but had a good knowledge of numbers and that side. And then another one who was very just good at the day-to-day operational things and take care of the, just day-to-day tasks that needed to be taken care of. I too would take care of the day-to-day stuff. And then on top of that, I just happened to have the fascination with marketing and everything else. So it was for a new business, a one of one in a new area with people that in a community that it was a good idea. It worked. But then as obstacles come in, as I mentioned in the last episode, you start talking about having the right permits and having the right people helping you build the next stage to the thing. Well, the business knowledge isn't quite there, and you don't know who to hire, who to go with, how to kind of just scope out the landscape, and then you get burned, and it happens. But I want to leave you with that message of that if you're just now starting, or if you just started, or if you're thinking that in the next near future, however long it is, weeks, months, years, you're going to start your own thing, start thinking about all of the things that make a business. And I don't even want to just say small business, because there's this, this quote or this saying that people say a lot on the internet where the reason small businesses are small is because they think small. If they thought like big businesses, they would be big businesses. And that's true at a foundational level. Duh, right? You start off as a owner operator, as the technician, like Michael Gerber references, the person who starts the thing. But then you start building upon that, right? You get somebody in to help, and then you're able to, if you're smart with everything, you reinvest diligently, you find the person who can work the numbers, and you find the person who can, and they're out there. There are people who are really good at certain things, like I mentioned the three of us, and they're going to want to do that thing. And if you can, then, I mean, this is totally separate, but if you can start forming your business mission statement around, the why you're doing it, and then building a culture at your business, then you can bring people in. People are going to want to come in, and they're going to want to fill the holes, that you have at your business and in your plan. And that's when the beauty really starts to happen. But, a lot of people don't make it there. A lot of people don't get there. And if you start from absolute zero, it's going to be a lot harder to even make it past that first year. We were lucky to make it past that first year to year two. And then just other things happening. This was the year after that was Hurricane Harvey in Houston, and then a bunch of problems with moving to another commercial facility where contractors get involved, and just a bunch of other disgusting acts by people like that. So you have to be careful who you hire, obviously, to build out the next part of your dream or whatever. But to go back to the original point and put it in a nice neat bow, you really should start thinking now, no matter at what level you are of your entrepreneurial endeavor. Start reading, brainstorming, finding mentors, and finding ways to just take in as much knowledge as possible about the things that revolve around making a business work and make it operational, and also making it capable of leveling up as you level up in the business. It's for a whole nother topic or for a whole nother podcast, but there are certain businesses that just are better at scaling than others. And maybe your mission statement and maybe the whole reason you're doing this isn't to make a, $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion thing. It is completely different, and I think that's great. I think everybody has their own reasons for starting a business. It could just be as simple as, I want more autonomy and time. I want to build a comfortable enough, life for myself and my family, and create jobs and bring people in to just, hit certain milestones and levels. And if you increase from those, incrementally at a 2, 3, 4, 5% plus, whatever, year after year, and you're good with that, then that's great. Other people go out there with the ambition of, I want to build a huge thing, which is also awesome. But for those of you listening, there's a wide spectrum of those that are listening that have a wide spectrum of goals. And regardless of what those goals are, these principles, the things I'm talking about on these episodes, these solo episodes, they're for both of you. They're for everyone. You can't escape it. You're going to need this foundational level of just understanding when it comes to all the boring stuff, all the things I said I don't want to, or I'm not good at it. It's not my thing. There's someone else on the team. That may be true, but also if you just have a fundamental understanding of it, you'll be better off when something hits the fan, because inevitably it will, and you'll be able to have another set of eyes, being yours, who can help the other person on the team that said, I'm naturally good at this, this is my thing, I'm going to do it. But then something happens, you're like, all right, let me put my eyes on that as well, lend my 2 cents, and just, you'll end up figuring it out a lot faster, a lot better than if everyone's just kind of doing it on their own, or if it's you by yourself and you have no knowledge of this. So I'll leave you with that, everybody. I appreciate you listening to this. Share it with a friend. Share it with another entrepreneur, a young business mind who just needs a little bit of information to just take that next step in the right direction for them. And whatever that direction is, I applaud you for doing it. I hope to bring you more value-packed podcasts and videos if you're listening or watching on YouTube. How to Human Podcast. RobertGarzaMedia.com. If you want to book a call, if you want to join the newsletter, please do. For me, and I've wrapped up the podcast, but just to give you guys a little bit more insight, I'm really going hard on trying to structure this hamster wheel of a brain that I have on a day-to-day basis and reining it all in. I'm using, these devices that we're so fortunate to have, and I'm using all of the things that are here in front of me now that 10 years ago, I couldn't have dreamt of the setup I have now, that I'm able to do virtual podcasting with clients when I need to, Zoom calls, you name it. I mean, I wake up every day, and I'm not very religious by any means, but I'm so grateful of what I've been able to build up to this point, not even just material wise, but just in my brain. Like, I've been able to get to a certain level of understanding when it comes to not just business, but life in general, that I I hate to say like I'm pretty happy as it is, because we always want more. We want to accomplish more. We want to impact more people. We want to do more for others. Personally, that's just me. And you can't do that by not continuing to be ambitious. And you can't do that by just saying, I'm going to settle. I'm good right here. But I can't wait to be able to impact more people who want to go down the journey I did, and they just want to avoid all of the mistakes that I made. So anyway, all right, guys, I appreciate it. Have a great day.